I bet some of the people in the audience now, they are really curious and they want to know more on how to apply to work here with us. Joachim, take us through it.
And I absolutely hope so, that we sparked some interest on how to apply here and what does it mean to work with us. And I will, we've seen this, so I will just share the right slide. I've prepared a little visual for this, as I knew this question was coming, just to also give the people that are more visually oriented a bit the idea that what are we talking about. And first of all, I must recognize, Lucia, when we look at this slide, of course, we do see that it looks like quite an impressive process, but it shouldn't be intimidating. There's nothing to worry about. We will take you through and you will see that actually it's quite okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. It's long.
Absolutely. It looks long, but it is not per se that long. Okay. And first of all, I can already guarantee for the people at home, indeed, this is not for the trainee. So if you're thinking about applying for a traineeship, don't worry about it. This is not your process. This is for our statutory staff, the biggest pool of staff, as I earlier indicated. So this is particularly for trainees. So for trainees, we will have a look at the different process. There will be more information coming soon on that. But for sure, I can already say to apply for a traineeship, it's only about an application letter and an interview, so not this
simplified process.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
And this one is for the ones you were mentioning before, 3 to 5 years contract and possibility to become permanent.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed. And I can also already say that this entire process here is done fully remote. So there's no need to come to Helsinki here and join us here, but we can also go through the various steps and go there.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's go. So with what do we start? With the vacancy notice?
Yes, the vacancy notice. Very important document. So basically this is the description of the job, saying what will be the process to apply, what the job contains, which responsibilities you could have, and what your prospects are here at ECHA. So that's the very first step, yes.
So key document to be saved and followed.
Absolutely, okay. Yes. And this will help you throughout the selection process to see what is next and what will I be assessed on. So what qualities or requirements will be there.
Okay.
So usually we publish the vacancy notice for around 3 to 5 weeks. Online, there's many platforms. I will go into that a bit later as well. And then there is the application. So just to flag to to you all that there will be 3 main steps, let's say, to apply.
Okay.
First of all, there's your application, so your CV that you submit to us. Secondly, there will be a written test. And lastly, there is also an interview. And that then could bring you ultimately to a reserve list here at ECHA.
Okay, so those steps and all remotely.
Yes. So when you submit your application, there will be a necessity to do an eligibility check. So we check, are you eligible for this role specifically? What does eligibility mean? I see you thinking, Lucia.
Yeah,
well, I will tell you.
I get it like, okay, some limitations, some can
Indeed.
pass, some cannot. Okay.
Exactly. So there are some basic requirements which everyone that wants to apply for a certain role needs to have in place, let's say. So it could be, for example, the EU nationality or the European Economic Area nationality. Okay. It could be about having a good knowledge and good command of English, because this is our working language. So just to know that when you come to work at ECHA, you would be working in your daily work in English. But then there may also be some academic or work experiences required just to join us, basically, or for a specific role.
So, for example, in my case, I'm Spanish, so I'm national from Spain. I speak Spanish.
Yes.
I speak as well English. So there I have those check boxes. And I remember also when I applied, I had to have university degree.
Exactly.
And that is also one of the minimum requirements.
Depending on the role, yes.
Yes.
Indeed. What is for sure a minimum requirement is the 2 languages, as you mentioned. So English as the working language, and then 1 other EU language you need to have in place.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So when you meet the eligibility criteria, then you also go to the CV assessment. So that's then the next step. So we check first if you meet the requirements, then we take you to the CV assessment. In that assessment, we of course then have, it's a comparative exercise as we name it. So basically that means that we check if you are better than the other candidates in terms of work experience, in terms of academic degrees that you have, and all other elements that you bring forward in your CV.
Okay, so you do a bit of a ranking.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And then there is the feedback to candidates that, yes, you passed the screening, the CV screening, or you have not passed it. And then you can go on to the written test and ultimately also the interview.
So the communication is sent to both, to the ones who go to the interview or are invited to the interview, but also to those who didn't pass it.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
And that ultimately then, of course, leads to a reserve list, as you know.
And I bet for them it might be a bit unknown. What is a reserve list?
Good that you ask, Lucia. So a reserve list doesn't automatically mean that you will be hired here at ECHA. It means that the panel judged that you actually have the right skill set, the right motivation, the right knowledge and experience to join ECHA. However, we still need to find you a suitable role in the future. So the validity of the reserve list is for 1 to 2 years, depending on the role, and can also be extended. So throughout that period, we might have vacancies to fill, vacant jobs that we have, and then we go and look at the reserve list. Which person is a suitable profile? So we go again to your CV, we have a look, what have you done? How did you impress us in the interview, in the written test? And then from there, we might offer you an actual role.
Okay, so then when people apply for a position, the goal already a lot is to get into the reserve list.
Absolutely, that is the main thing for sure.
Okay, good. So now we have that all the process, the road gone through, and I think now perhaps some tips that you could give them, like what in this first step, the application.
Yes, so some tips and tricks here indeed to how to apply. First of all, you need to ensure that you know about the job, because if you don't know about it, for sure, the chances of applying for it will be low. We publish our vacancy notice for 3 to 5 weeks, as I said, on our website. There's also an ECHA newsletter to which you can subscribe, and you can even specifically subscribe to job notifications per email. So please do that after you see. But we also use many different channels. From LinkedIn, ResearchGate, for students we use Job Teaser. So we try to inform you as good as possible with all means that we have to make sure that you hear at least about the vacancy notice.
And how long is the vacancy notice published, like available there so that people can apply normally?
So usually about 3 to 5 weeks.
Okay.
That would be, yes. Then we would really recommend reading the vacancy notice thoroughly, because first of all, the eligibility criteria, if you're not eligible, we cannot let you through to the next stage. So we also don't want you to have invested unnecessary time to this process.
Yeah.
Secondly, there are selection criteria. So basically, we tell you on what you will be assessed through the various stages of the selection. There is also a guide of applicants, and there may also be documents linked in the vacancy notice that can help you to have further information about the role, about the job, about how ECHA fits into that, or how that role fits into ECHA more precisely.
And can they just submit whatever CV, or is there a structure there already?
Good that you ask. There is a structure, so there is an e-recruitment tool, so you just log into that tool, and then you answer the questions that we have for you. You also check the boxes that indeed you are eligible, so we help you also to identify this eligibility, and then from there you can submit it. We also recommend reserving sufficient time to do that, and also not to do it last minute. If you would have any connectivity issues whatsoever, that you still can apply on time.
That's a good advice, I think, for life in general.
For life in general, yes.
Not to leave it for the last minute. You never know.
Can I do one more?
Yes,
one more tip. Yes. We would really recommend to provide details and examples. For example, I will make it very concrete. We have a current ongoing toxicology call, so a scientific officer toxicology. And in the vacancy notice, we say, please provide expert opinions, or make sure that, or tell us how you have been providing expert opinions on toxicology.
Yeah.
So you could say that, hey, I've been a toxicology manager. They can deduct from the job title that I have done this. We can't. So we can only see what you have read, and we can only draw conclusions from that. Secondly, it's not sufficient just to tell then in the description, I've been providing expert opinions on toxicology, because anyone could write that. So what we want to hear is that how often have you been doing that? In what context have you been doing that? Who has been involved in that? So that gives the panel actually a very clear picture that, okay, this is this person's experience. I think this is a suitable person to work here at ECHA. Yeah. And then that's how you pass the CV screening stage.
Okay, so to highlight your relevance with examples.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and And I'm also, if you don't have the exact experience, is there any possibility these transferable skills?
Good point. Yes, because of course, imagine you have expert opinions, you have experience in drafting expert opinions on another matter. You can still mention that as a transferable skill, that maybe I don't have in this exact field, but I have in doing A, B, and C,
yes.
which is actually very similar and which I think can also count as a useful experience in that field. So that way you can also convince the panel that, yes, I do have the necessary qualities to do this.
Yeah, so then make it easy for the panel to identify
exactly,
that.
Yes.
Okay, so I think anything else from the application, or should we move to
I think we
the
can
next?
move on, yes. So then there's the written test.
Go for it.
There you go. Okay. So first of all, the written test, you will receive an invitation. Every invitation you receive from us contains clear information on what to expect and how to prepare for it. Mm-hmm. The test is usually 1 to 1.5 hours, and it's fully remote. So even for this, you don't need to leave the house if you don't want to. And if you want to know how to prepare, just have a look at the vacancy notice. Again, we have it all stipulated there. How can you, what should you be preparing for?
So in that document, there is a part that is written test, and
yes.
there you get a bit more on what topics you will
Absolutely.
be tested. Okay.
Indeed. And talking about testing, so we also would recommend to test the platform. So we use an online platform. Please test it beforehand. There is the opportunity to do so and even an invitation to do so. It's on your own responsibility to do so, but we really recommend it as it will help not to be stressed on the moment itself of the written test, that you at least are familiar with the tool.
And are you able to choose at what time you have the test?
Yes, there is flexibility, and this will also then be explained on which dates that you can potentially choose from. And maybe a last thing about the written test is that it both tests theoretical knowledge, but it also can be a very hands-on assignment. We were talking about drafting expert opinions, so it could be that you get let's say a 2-pager to read, and that we then ask that, okay, draft your expert opinion here in 1 or 2 pages and tell us what would be your proposed way forward. So that could be a way to test your skills there.
Yeah, very clear, I think. Thanks. Should we move to the interview?
And then the interview, again, you will receive an invitation from us, so that should clarify the most elements of it. The booking of the interview is done on a first-come, first-served basis. So we give you at one point the open slots. You can book it according to your calendar, but of course, the sooner you book, the more opportunities you have to choose and to match with your own calendar. The interview is usually around 30 to 45 minutes. It's with a panel of 3 to 4 people asking questions, also representing the staff committee and an HR professional. And also there we have a lot of elements in place to ensure equal treatment, for example, and to make sure that the process is transparent.
Yeah, so that the process is fair as well, no?
Absolutely.
That evaluation. And is it a structure as well, interview, or how
Indeed,
do you...
Indeed, we ask all, for example, this is one of the elements how we ensure equal treatment, is by actually using the same question set for every candidate. So there's a good comparability and that everyone is treated in the same fair way. Yes.
Okay. And how... in the interview, what are they looking for?
Yes.
It's a lot about experience.
Of course, the experience is an element touched upon, but I think we already at that stage had the written test. We had the the CV, so we know already quite a lot about you. So in that sense, the interview is really more about us asking to show your personality and be your authentic self. Show how you match also our organization and our values. So how do you match these? So we check if you are a match, and it's also an opportunity for you to match that. Do I match this organization? Does this is this organization in line with my values and where I want to go in life? And in that sense, I also always want to invite candidates to think about, do you have any questions for us? Because we will have a lot of questions for you, for sure, in the interview. But it could be good to think that, what do I want to know before committing to starting to work in this organization? So think about that. We will always foresee some time in the interview to go into that.
Wow, that's quite nice to leave that time as well for the candidate to experience and to get to know a bit more on the post and the organization. Well,
exactly, we do our best.
Good. Very good.